The Best Investment I Ever Made by A.J. Cronin. This story speaks about the sole occasion which happened in the author's life ages ago. Second day in the ship out from New York, the author, Cronin, was walking along the desk. At that time, he noticed an unknown passenger watching him closely, following him with his gaze every time he passed by. Though the author was not interested to speak to him because he wanted to avoid the casual shipboard conversation, so he pretended not to be noticed by him. But he was able to judge that man. He was in his early 40s, short in build, with a fair complexion, a good forehead, and a clear blue eyes. He wore a dark suit, sober tie, rimless spectacles gave evidence of a serious and a reserved disposition. The very next day afternoon, the author saw his same fellow passenger who was watching him from the desk chair. At that time, a lady was with him, obviously his wife. She was about his age, with a brown eyes, a slightly faded brown hair, dressed in a grey skirt and a grey woolen cardigan. At that time, the author was extremely confused of why he had been noticed by them. So he found out that they were Mr. and Mrs. John from a small suburb of London. So after that also there was no conversation between him and the couple. So that day also passed out without any conversation. On the final evening in the ship, Mrs. John urged her husband to approach Dr. Cronin, who is the author. So, when Dr. Cronin was passing along the desk, Mr. John he approached Dr. Cronin, and he also introduced his wife to him. And by that time, they occupied a vacant chair beside them. Mr. John started a conversation like it is their first visit to America, and he also said that he and his wife are there in the field of youth welfare for about 15 years, where they take care of boys and girls, mostly from the city slums, who had fallen under the ban of law. How they place them in a healthy environment after that, heal their mind and body, send them back to the society as an individual, as a new person. Meanwhile, uh, Dr. Cronin was really very much touched with the work what they were doing. At that time, Mr. John he asked the doctor whether he could remember him, but Dr. Cronin was not able to figure out who he was. So Mr. John he whispered few words inside Dr. Cronin's ears. After that, Dr. Cronin was able to remember and he was able to recognize who that man was, and he was also taken back to his young days as a doctor. So he remembered one night where around 1 o'clock he had a banging at his door. So he threw some clothes and went downstairs to see who he was, and that was a police. And he said that it was a suicide case, and so he hurried Dr. Colin to come with him. He took him to an old building. While they were climbing the staircase, they were struck by the odor of illuminating gas. So when they went upstairs, he was able to see a young man in the bed who was apparently lifeless. So after that, Dr. Cronin, along with the police, they started to give some first aid to him. They tried for almost 1 hour, and there was no success. Like it was same as it was before. Then further 15 minutes of effort, also it was useless. At last, double the effort of almost half an hour, they were able to see some changes in that young boy, and that young man he slowly started to regain his strength and started to narrate the story behind his suicide attempt. He said that his parents are dead, and his uncle found him a clerk job in the London solicitor office. He had been in the city for 6 months with bad companion. He started to bet on horses. Soon he lost all his savings and the money which he had in that. So at last, he even stole money from the office safe for a final gamble, from which he thought that he can win back the money which he had lost. But that was also an utter failure. So at last he didn't know what to do, he was confused. So he stuck himself in a room and turned on the gas in order to end his life. After hearing the story, Dr. Colin, the police, and the landlady of the house didn't utter any word. There was complete silence in that place. Then the police asked him how much he had stolen. The young man he replied it was £7 and 10 shillings. The police he didn't file any case against him. After hearing his story, the landlady offered a month's stay in her building without no pay, and Dr. Cronin he gave him the £7 and 10 shillings to him to put back in the office safe. So after hearing the story, there was complete silence in the ship desk, and Dr. Cronin he reflected in himself that to all the investment which he had made throughout his life for material gain, he thought that this was the best investment which he ever made. He was able to save a young man.